You ever take a job without reading the fine print? Yeah, don't do that. Kellen Varick did. And that's why he found himself standing in the middle of an alien village, staring at 6 tall, glowing blue women who all looked like they just stepped out of a perfume commercial. If perfume commercials also featured, well, pregnancy bellies. The ad had said, "Wanted, strong human male for village work, generous pay, comfortable housing, excellent benefits." Benefits, as Kellen was rapidly learning, had been a bit of a euphemism. The alien standing closest to him, with silver white hair and eyes that sparkled like ice, tilted her head at him. She was elegant, beautiful, radiant, and clearly very, very pregnant. "Welcome, human," she purred in an accent that sounded like someone rolling silk over glass. "I am Lyria, first wife of the council. You must be the breeder." Kellen nearly choked on his own tongue. "Excuse me, the what now?" Behind him, the rest of the blue women chuckled. It wasn't the kind of polite laugh you hear at a dinner party. It was the kind of laugh women shared when they were about to absolutely ruin a man's life, one sarcastic comment at a time. "Breeder," another alien said, brushing long white hair behind her ear. "The one who makes babies. Surely you read the contract." "Oh, I read it," Kellen muttered. "I just thought make babies was, metaphorical. Like, we're building a future together or some inspirational crap." "Not." He waved at their rounded stomachs. "An actual maternity ward situation." Lyria stepped closer, her glowing skin faintly shimmering in the afternoon sun. "You are here to help our population grow, are you not?" Kellen gulped. He glanced around. There were big red domes behind them, factories maybe, or homes, he couldn't tell. A drone hovered in the sky, watching them like a referee at the world's weirdest dating show. "Look," Kellen said, scratching the back of his neck. "I was thinking more along the lines of farming, maybe fixing roofs, delivering mail, not delivering genetic material on demand." "Oh, sweet human," another alien crooned, pressing her hands to her hips in mock pity. "Around here, roofs can wait, but our wombs cannot." The others giggled again. Kellen swallowed hard. He had once been pretty good at handling jokes. He had dated women back home, survived awkward family dinners, even worked as a bartender where drunk couples argued loudly about who forgot to buy toilet paper. But this was a level of adult humor he wasn't trained for. Lyria gave him a slow once-over, her silver eyes twinkling with playful menace. "You look strong, healthy, handsome enough. Yes, you'll do." Kellen pointed at himself, utterly lost. "Do for what, exactly?" "For us," she said simply. And damn if she didn't sound like she was describing both a sacred duty and a Saturday night mistake waiting to happen. The first few minutes in the alien village went exactly like this. Kellen tried to keep his dignity. The aliens tried to make him blush. And the drone above probably got the best comedy footage anyone had ever seen. One of the other blue women, slightly shorter, with mischief written all over her glowing face, sauntered up to him. Her name, as she later introduced herself, was Zalera. And if sarcasm could be bottled, her voice would be top shelf. "So human," she said, tapping her finger lightly against his chest plate. "Are you efficient, or more of a slow worker?" Kellen coughed. "Define efficient." "Oh, she said sweetly. "Quick, productive, leaves us satisfied with the results." The others laughed. Kellen rubbed his temples. "Oh great, I've walked into an alien baby-making factory run entirely by stand-up comedians." But the truth was, there was something oddly charming about them. Sure, they were teasing him, but it wasn't mean-spirited. It was playful, flirtatious, full of that weird mix of romance and comedy that happens when people are just a little too comfortable talking about reproduction. Lyria leaned close, her voice a purr. "Relax, human. We don't expect you to perform immediately. Tonight will be for introductions." Kellen nearly passed out with relief. "Oh, thank God. Tomorrow, however, we begin your real duties." His relief lasted exactly 3 seconds. He spent the rest of that afternoon being shown around the village. There were dome houses, hydro farms, glowing rivers of blue energy that powered everything. The alien women moved gracefully, their gowns swaying, their pregnant forms somehow radiant instead of cumbersome. Every now and then, one of them would drop a sly joke that made Kellen wish he'd taken that desk job back on Earth instead. "Do you snore, human?" one asked. "Because if you do, we'll assign you to Lyria's chamber. She sleeps like a rock." "Don't worry, we rotate partners," another said with a wink. Kellen nearly tripped over a rock. "Rotate what now?" "Relax," Lyria said calmly. "It is tradition. A healthy bloodline requires variety." "Variety," Kellen muttered. "Yeah, that's exactly the word my ex used before she dumped me." By the time the suns began to set, painting the sky pink and gold, Kellen was emotionally exhausted. He was ushered into a circular dining hall where they served him a meal that looked suspiciously like blue mashed potatoes but tasted better than any earth steak he'd ever had. The women sat around him, talking, laughing, teasing. He learned their names. Lyria, Zalera, Tyranne, Vale, Asa, and Mireille. Each one had her own flavor of humor. Lyria with her calm, queenly wit, Zalera with her sharp sarcasm, Asa with her inappropriate one-liners that would have gotten her banned from most comedy clubs. "So, human," Asa said between bites, "do Earth men always wear that much armor? Or are you just compensating for something?" Kellen dropped his fork. "Lady, this suit is military-grade protection." "Protection from what?" she asked slyly. "Us." The table erupted in laughter. By the end of dinner, Kellen wasn't sure if he was more terrified or intrigued. Sure, the job was insane. Sure, the humor was borderline criminal. But underneath all the jokes and double entendres, he could sense something genuine. These women weren't just messing with him for the fun of it. They needed him, and part of him, maybe the part that had been lonely for way too long, wasn't entirely against the idea. That night, as he lay in a perfectly comfortable alien bed that suspiciously smelled like lavender and danger, he muttered to himself, "Okay, Kellen, you wanted a fresh start. You wanted adventure. You wanted to feel needed. Congratulations, buddy. You're the galaxy's newest employee in the world's weirdest daycare program." He closed his eyes. Somewhere outside, he heard the aliens laughing again. And even though he knew tomorrow was going to be hell, he couldn't stop smiling. Kellen woke up to the sound of bells. Not church bells. Not alarm bells. No, these were alien bells, like somebody had programmed a spaceship to play jazz xylophone. He groaned and sat up in bed. The sheets were too silky, the mattress too soft, and the faint lavender scent in the room made it way too easy to forget the absolute nightmare he'd signed up for. Nightmare or fantasy? His brain hadn't decided yet. The door slid open and in walked Zalera, the sarcastic one, of course. She carried a tray of what looked like glowing pancakes. "Morning, breeder," she sang cheerfully. Kellen buried his face in his hands. "Please, don't call me that before breakfast." "Oh? Do you prefer stud? Or maybe Earth Stallion? I can make a list." Kellen squinted at her through his fingers. "You enjoy this, don't you?" She set the tray on the table and smirked. "Immensely." Breakfast was awkward. The pancakes tasted like cinnamon, but halfway through his second bite, Zalera leaned across the table and said, "So, how much experience do you have?" Kellen choked. "Experience in what?" She arched a perfect blue eyebrow. "Oh, don't play innocent. You know what job you signed up for." "I told you. I thought it was farming." "Darling," she said, biting into her pancake with a slow grin. "In this village, fertilizer takes on a whole new meaning." Kellen put his fork down. "I hate everything about this conversation." After breakfast, Zalera dragged him outside, literally by the arm. The other women were waiting in the central courtyard, which looked suspiciously like the set of a reality TV show. Two red domes towered in the background. The drone hovered overhead again, no doubt recording his humiliation for posterity. Lyria stood in the center, regal as ever. "Human," she said, "today begins your training." Kellen raised a hand like a student about to fail class. "Quick question. Can we maybe not call it training? That makes it sound like I'm about to run a marathon. Or get neutered. Tyranny, the quiet one, actually snorted with laughter. Lyria ignored it. You must understand our customs. Each of us has chosen to carry children as part of the population renewal program. But your contributions must be handled with precision. Kellen's brain short-circuited. Contributions? Lady, that's the politest way anyone's ever asked me for. Focus, she interrupted smoothly. Step 1 of orientation, physical assessment, which was basically code for 6 pregnant aliens surrounding him, poking at his arms, chest, and legs like he was a prize horse up for auction. Strong shoulders, Mireille murmured. Good stamina, judging by his build. Vale added. But does he have endurance? Asa teased. Kellen flailed. Hey, I'm right here. You can't just objectify me like. He caught himself. Okay, maybe you can. But at least buy me dinner first. Oh wait, you did. The women burst out laughing. Even Lyria smiled faintly, which Kellen decided was either a victory or the beginning of his doom. Step 2. Cultural education. This involved sitting in a dome-shaped hall while Vale pointed at glowing holograms of alien anatomy. Kellen lasted about 10 minutes before his face turned crimson. Okay, pause, he begged. I cannot handle a PowerPoint presentation about reproductive cycles before lunch. My high school sex ed teacher scarred me enough. Vale tilted her head. Your people require education in mating? No, my people require therapy after education in mating. The aliens didn't get the joke, but Zalera slapped his back and cackled anyway. Step 3. Practical demonstration. And that's when Kellen panicked. Whoa. Nobody said anything about a practical today. Don't I at least get a study guide? A practice doll? Something? Asa grinned wickedly. Relax, human. We don't expect you to perform. Yet, this is only observation, which was not reassuring at all. They led him into what looked like a spa chamber. Glowing pools, soft lights, sweet-smelling steam. Lyria explained that this was where bonding rituals traditionally took place. Kellen swallowed. Loudly. So, let me get this straight. You want me to just hang out in a glowing hot tub while 6 pregnant alien women judge me? Correct. Cool. Totally normal. This is just like Vegas, but with less alcohol and way more cultural responsibility. In the pool, things only got weirder. The aliens asked him questions. Personal questions. Romantic questions. Questions that would have made his grandmother faint. What is your ideal number of offspring? What position brings you the most joy? Do humans prefer rhythm or improvisation? Kellen held his head in his hands. Why do I feel like I'm on the galaxy's worst dating game show? Because you are, Zalera whispered in his ear. By the time orientation ended, Kellen was exhausted, sweaty, and convinced he was going to die of embarrassment before he ever fulfilled his duties. That night, they gathered around another communal dinner. He expected more teasing, and he got it, but there was also something else. They were softer with him, curious, even tender. Lyria asked him about Earth, its oceans, its music, its cities. Mireille wanted to know what human courtship was like. Tyranny admitted she liked the way his laugh sounded, even when it was nervous. And for the first time since arriving, Kellen felt something shift. It wasn't just a job. It wasn't just a cosmic joke. These women were lonely. They had chosen this path out of necessity. And maybe, just maybe, romance could bloom in the middle of all the comedy and chaos. After dinner, Asa leaned over and whispered, So, breeder, tomorrow's lesson involves hands-on practice. I hope you're ready. Kellen froze, fork halfway to his mouth. Hands-on? As in. She winked. You'll see. Kellen groaned and dropped his head onto the table. Yep, I'm gonna die here, either from exhaustion or from flirting-induced heart failure. But deep down, he wasn't entirely against it. Kellen woke up wishing desperately that yesterday had been a dream. Maybe he'd eaten some bad takeout, passed out in his crappy Earth apartment, and hallucinated a blue-skinned maternity ward that had mistaken him for an employee. But when he sat up, saw the silky sheets, the glowing ceiling, and that lavender mist drifting across the room, the truth slapped him in the face. He was still here, still the village's breeder. And then, because fate had a dark sense of humor, Zalera strolled in carrying a basket full of mysterious bottles, oils, herbs, something that looked suspiciously like a feather. "Morning, stud," she chirped. "Today's the big day." Kellen blinked at her. "The big day? Already? What happened to probation periods? Orientation? At least a performance review before I get fired." "Don't worry," she said, dropping the basket with a grin. "This is just practice. No pressure." He peered at the bottles. "Practice with what? Potion making? Aromatherapy? Oils?" she said simply. "For bonding. For stimulation. For atmosphere." Kellen groaned. "Fantastic. I should have stayed on Earth. I could have been making lattes right now. You know what people expect from a barista? Foam hearts. Not babies." She only smirked. "Come on. Everyone's waiting." The waiting turned out to be in a dome Kellen hadn't seen before. A space glowing soft white with a bed in the center that looked suspiciously like a stage prop. He stopped dead. "Oh, hell no. I know this setup. This is Performance Anxiety Central. You want me to practice in front of an audience?" The 6 women stood around the bed with identical smiles that could have powered an entire solar grid. "Of course," Lyria said as calmly as if she were assigning a book report. "How else will we judge your technique?" Kellen waved his hands frantically. "You don't judge technique. You appreciate it. You encourage it quietly, like a good audience at a karaoke bar." They ignored him, guiding him to sit down. Mireille, the gentlest of the group, handed him a small bottle of shimmering oil. He rubbed it between his palms, blinking nervously. "So, where exactly am I supposed to put this?" Giggles erupted in stereo. Mireille leaned close, her voice like silk. "On us, of course. We will guide you." "Guide me?" Kellen sputtered. This is starting to sound less like training and more like a deleted scene from a very weird spa commercial. Still, he obeyed. His hands shook as he pressed them to Mireille's shoulders, trying to keep it professional. She sighed softly, the sound halfway between a purr and a moan, and Kellen's ears went red. "Gentle, firm, balanced," she whispered. "Balanced? What am I, a yoga instructor?" he muttered. "Don't forget the lower back," Asa called from the sidelines. "That's where the real stress is. Trust me." "I'm being heckled during foreplay," Kellen groaned. "This is officially the worst job orientation of all time." Once the oils were deemed satisfactory, Lyria announced the next stage. Alignment exercises, which, as Kellen quickly realized, was a fancy way of saying alien Kama Sutra yoga. They demonstrated different bonding positions, sitting face to face, lying side by side, even one that looked like it required circus training. "This one," Lyria explained while elegantly straddling a cushion, "represents unity of spirit." Kellen's brain promptly blue-screened. Aha, unity, spirit, totally. And not at all the beginning of a suspicious yoga DVD I once saw in college. He tried to mirror her posture, promptly lost his balance, and landed flat on his back. The women howled with laughter. "Graceful," Zalera teased. "Shut up," Kellen groaned. And then came dialogue training. According to Asa, it wasn't enough to touch, they wanted words too. Romantic, seductive encouragement. "You want me to talk dirty in front of 6 strangers?" Kellen asked, horrified. "Not dirty," Asa said. "Romantic, seductive, encouraging." "I barely passed English," Kellen complained. "Now you want me to be Shakespeare in space?" "Try," Lyria urged. Kellen turned to Mireille, panicked, and blurted, Your skin looks like a really nice swimming pool?" The silence that followed was painful. Then Zalera broke into such loud, uncontrollable laughter she nearly fell off her chair. "A swimming pool?" she gasped. "I panicked," Kellen shouted. But here was the strange thing. The more he fumbled, the more they smiled. Not with mockery, but with warmth. They weren't testing for perfection. They just wanted him to try, to show effort, vulnerability, even humor. And against all odds, Kellen started wanting to. Sure, he was embarrassed, sweaty, and convinced he'd never live this down. But somewhere in the middle of massages and yoga failures and god-awful flirting, he felt a spark. He wanted to make them laugh. He wanted to connect. He wanted to matter. By the end of the session, he was exhausted but weirdly proud. That evening at dinner, just when he thought he'd survived the worst, Asa raised her glass and toasted, "To our new breeder, may his stamina be long, his aim be true, and his metaphors improve." The table erupted in cheers. Kellen buried his face in his hands. "Please kill me now." Zalera leaned close, smirking in that way that promised trouble. "Oh no, darling. You're not dying anytime soon. Tomorrow is the real test." Kellen peeked out through his fingers. The real test? What the hell was today then? "Foreplay," she whispered. He groaned so loudly the hovering drone outside probably picked it up. Later that night, lying in bed, Kellen stared at the glowing ceiling and admitted to himself that he wasn't just terrified anymore. He was curious, excited, maybe even a little hopeful. Beneath all the comedy and humiliation, there was something real, something pulling him closer to these women, to Lyria's calm power, to Zalera's wicked grin, to all of them. Tomorrow, though, was the test, and Kellen had no doubt it would be the wildest, most ridiculous day of his life. The alien village hadn't been this lively in centuries. Lanterns shaped like glowing jellyfish floated in the air. Laughter bounced between the strange, bioluminescent huts, and music was produced by instruments that looked suspiciously like rubber chickens being strangled in harmony. And in the center of it all stood Kale, the human who'd somehow turned a very serious alien fertility program into the equivalent of a cosmic rom-com disaster. He didn't stand alone. At his side was Sylthia, her hair shimmering silver under the floating lights. She looked both radiant and slightly exasperated, like someone who'd finally admitted that this man was now hers, for better or worse, through all the intergalactic double entendres to come. "Do you realize?" she muttered under her breath as they watched a group of aliens dance in a circle. "You've completely rewritten what employment benefits mean in this village?" Kale smirked. "Hey, don't blame me. You're the one who offered me a job without listing the mating clause in the contract. That was supposed to be implied. Well, I'm human. We like fine print, especially if it's about reproduction. You should see our internet history." She groaned, but couldn't help laughing. "Your planet is insane." "Yeah," Kale grinned, slipping an arm around her waist. "But now so is yours." The ceremony began. Apparently, when a human signs an alien baby-making employment deal, there's a tradition of celebrating with what the villagers called the Union Feast. Except feast was misleading. The first dish brought to them looked like a cross between spaghetti and living worms trying to escape the plate. Kale poked one with a fork, and it squeaked like a dog toy. He blinked. Does this bite back?" Sylthia whispered. "Just don't look it in the eye." One worm squealed, "Eat me, Daddy," in a squeaky voice. Kale dropped the fork. "Okay, nope. That one's yours." The aliens clapped, delighted by his horrified face, and passed him the next dish. This one looked like a glowing fruit that pulsed like a heartbeat. He cut it open, and pink mist floated out, forming the words, "You are fertile human." The crowd cheered. Kale sighed. "I swear, this is the weirdest LinkedIn endorsement I've ever gotten." Sylthia covered her mouth, trying not to spit her drink. "You are so impossible." He winked. "But lovable. Debatable." Later that night, when the feast wound down, the crowd pushed them toward a platform where couples stood to declare their bonds. Apparently, it wasn't official until they made some kind of announcement. Kale, naturally, took the opportunity to give what he called a motivational speech for interspecies HR departments. "Friends, villagers, horny aliens of all shapes and antennae," he began, raising a cup. "When I came here, I thought I was applying for a normal job. Maybe bartending. Maybe fixing your plasma toilets. But no, you gave me a role so important, so intimate, so stamina testing, that I may never walk normally again. The crowd howled with laughter. One alien fainted from excitement. Kale pointed at Cynthia dramatically. And yet, despite the danger, despite the risk of cosmic rug burn and potential pelvis dislocation, I found something far better than a paycheck. I found her, the one who makes the job not just bearable, but worth every double entendre, every squeaky worm dinner, and every overly enthusiastic ovulation chant. Cynthia blushed crimson, then smacked his arm. You are humiliating me in front of my entire village. He grinned. That's called romance, sweetheart. The villagers cheered louder, stomping their feet, demanding they kiss. And kiss they did. Kale pulling her close, Cynthia giving in with a laugh that melted into the warmth of his lips. It wasn't just a kiss of comedy, or lust, or accidental contracts. It was something deeper, something real. And when they finally pulled apart, Cynthia whispered, So, are you ready to make babies? Officially? Kale smirked. Honey, at this point, it's not just a job. It's a career path. The crowd roared in approval. Fireworks of glowing spores lit up the night sky. And somewhere in the distance, another worm squeaked. Good luck, Daddy. Kale groaned. Okay, seriously, we're banning worm food from the honeymoon. Cynthia laughed so hard she nearly fell over. And together, through absurd contracts, fertility feasts, and a romance born from one giant misunderstanding, the human and the alien realized that maybe, just maybe, this crazy intergalactic relationship was exactly the comedy the universe needed. And that's how one human turned a simple job into the weirdest love story in the galaxy. If you enjoyed this cosmic comedy of romance, don't forget to hit subscribe for more interstellar tales. You won't want to miss what happens next.